I am Kira. I can't begin to tell you how much it hurts when your family betrays you. I hope none of you ever get to have this experience. From my early years, my parents have taught me to be a good person. They were very kind and generous people, so it was natural for me to help people out whenever they needed it. Slowly, my ability to help people became a problem for me. I was being taken advantage of, but I did nothing to remedy the situation. That was until I was hit with the biggest betrayal of my life. This story involves my husband, Archer, and son, Seth. I met my husband at work. I was a very good student in college and landed a great job after graduation. Yes, my job pays very well. No, I won't tell you how much. Archer worked at the company because he was the owner's son. Josh was his father and my ultimate boss. I was a very good worker at the company, so Josh took it upon himself to mentor me. He always said, "I can see that you are a great worker, Kira. That is one of the reasons why I offered you the job so many years back. You have seriously outlived my expectations. Thank you so much, Josh. It was all your guidance that helped me." It would be unprofessional to say this, but you remind me of my parents, you know. They died shortly before my graduation. I know that, Kira. I'm so sorry you lost your parents so early. Trust me, sometimes I wish Archer was a little bit like you. He never had his head in the business. He just likes to tell everyone how I own a company and have lots of money. I wish he would become a little more responsible, especially for the sake of Seth. I hope you can drill some sense into Archer. I'll try my best, Josh. Honestly, I was very relieved to know that you approve of our relationship. I was scared you would reject me, or worse. You are good for him, Kira. That's the issue I'm worried about. I hope he changes himself and makes himself worthy of you. Josh never had a very good relationship with his son. After dating Archer, I could see why he was so critical of his son. Archer was a charming man who loved me a lot, but he wasn't a very good person to everyone else. He cared nothing of his father and had a very casual relationship with his son, Seth. Seth looked up to his dad and considered him a friend. When I first met Archer, he was kind of a womanizer, so I kept my distance from him. He had Seth from one of his flings, and the woman left, terminated her parent rights when Seth was 5. Apparently, she wanted nothing to do with Seth or Archer. Archer used to bring Seth to the office and left him with me. Seth really loved me, and we developed a deep bond. Slowly, Archer and I started to date, and eventually we got married. Archer was really appreciative of me, he said. "I am so glad I found an amazing woman like you. You know, most of the women I dated were after my money. You're so different. You spoiled me so much, even took Seth's responsibility." Why won't I, Archer? Seth is like my own son. I know I can never give kids, but I'm glad I found a son in Seth. You two have given me a great family. I can't believe you have readily taken all of Seth's expenses. Dad won't promote me, so I can't earn as much anymore. I'm so happy you help us maintain our lifestyle. Seth is getting all the things he asks for. It makes me so happy. I should have seen the warning signs long back. Archer married me only because I was willing to take full financial responsibility for Seth. Archer didn't earn much from the company since he wasn't fit to hold a high position. Whatever he earned was spent maintaining his posh lifestyle. He didn't want anyone to know that he wasn't as rich as he was. My income allowed him to put all responsibilities of Seth on me, while he used his salary on his lifestyle. I was happy taking care of Seth and Archer. Like I said, Seth and I were close, and he was like a son to me. I never considered him my stepson. Seth also adored and loved me. One day when he was 13, he said, "Kira, I really want to call you Mom. Will you be okay with it? I've been thinking about it for a while now. You're the only mom I know. My own mom abandoned me, but you didn't." What are you saying, Seth? I would be so happy to have you call me Mom. You're my son in all aspects. I have never thought of you as a stepson. You're my child. Of course, you can call me Mom. I never thought I would deserve this title. so I never asked you to call me Mom. You literally are the only one to deserve this title. In fact, I was hoping you would like to adopt me. My mom had terminated her rights long back. You can easily adopt me if you want. As much as I love dads, you are doing everything for me anyway. Oh my God, I would love to adopt you, Seth. You have no idea how long I have wanted this. I'll talk to Archer and start the process. You don't have to worry about anything. Turns out Archer already knew this plan. In fact, he was the one who suggested the adoption. I was so happy that they thought I deserved to be Seth's mom. Even on paper, I had no idea that everything was a plan to trap me. They simply wanted my money and were looking for legal ways to trap me completely. And like the stupid and loving woman I was, I just went along with it. Me, Stefan, and Archer were living like a happy family. But as Seth grew up, his demons became even more intense. I was paying for his school, his car, and his extracurricular classes. I even gave him an allowance to have fun. I didn't mind that I was spending a lot on him while his father spent all his money on himself. I never cared about these things, but one day my perfect family came crashing down around me. Josh passed away after suffering from cancer for 2 years. Surprisingly, he left the company to me because Archer was not capable of maintaining it. Seth and Archer were given $3 million each. They were pretty happy with what they got in the inheritance, but they didn't know that Josh had left a secret clause in his will. He had doubts about how Archer and Seth actually treated me, and he was right. I soon discovered that Archer was having an affair. In fact, he was cheating on me with a friend for years, and the worst thing was that Seth was supportive of the affair. The text I found between them was insane, and then I heard their conversation. Seth said, "I'm so glad you found someone worthy, Dad. Your girlfriend is such a fun woman. I really like her. You have so much fun together. She's nothing like Kira. Don't slip up, Seth. You need to keep calling her Mom. I don't want Kira to suspect anything. You have to pretend to be the perfect son for her. She might cut us off financially if she suspects anything." "I know that, Dad. It's just that it's hard for me to call a stranger Mom. She's not my mom and can't be one. I just don't want her to stop giving me money, so I keep pretending I like her. Your girlfriend is so much better." "We need to keep up this face, Seth. We can't let her doubt anything. Money is important to both of us." "Well, we have $6 million now. Why don't we just get rid of this woman? You can go marry your girlfriend instead. We don't need Kira in our life anymore." "I've been thinking about it, actually. Soon I will divorce her and marry my girlfriend. I'm just waiting for the money to be credited to my account." Hearing that absolutely crushed me. I never knew that this was what my husband and son thought about me. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I needed revenge. I walked in with my head held high and a serious expression on my face. There was no way I would let them see how much their words hurt me. Initially, they were a little surprised to see me. They were unsure if I had heard anything that they were discussing. I decided to drive their doubts away. I said, "So you are already planning to get rid of me, right? Well, I have some bad news for you guys. That $6 million you want? Well, it won't be given to you straight away." "What the hell do you mean? You will need my signature for it. Archer, you think your father was stupid enough to trust you and Seth with money? This is my father's inheritance. Me and Seth are entitled to it, to all of it. We are his blood. You are no one. Yeah, ultimately you're just my dad's wife. Why would Grandpa give you control over our inheritance? I guess you two have shown me my place today. Good to know that I am no one to you. All these years, I was just an ATM for you guys. It would make you sad to know that your grandpa has granted you an inheritance only if I think you should get one. After I give my signature to the estate manager, he'll transfer the money to you guys." No, that's not possible. Dad would never do that to us. Why don't you actually read the will properly to see what it said? I know you two saw $6 million and just started to celebrate here." I have a copy of The World ready just for you, too. I gave them the copy and waited for them to read through it all. They went pale, and I could tell that they couldn't believe their eyes. In my head, I was laughing my ass off, however. I tried to maintain my composure. I did love Archer and Seth, so their betrayal was hurting me too, but I knew from experience that you shouldn't let your enemies see how they affect you. I watched silently as Archer and Seth tried to comprehend what was written in the will. When the truth finally dawned on them, they said, "I can see that Dad has put you in charge of everything. I guess it makes sense since you were so close to him. If you and Seth had even bothered to look after him, he wouldn't have done this. We don't want to hear that, Camera. Why don't you just tell us when you will put your signature on the documents? Me and Dad need the money for stuff. We can't wait forever. Now that I know what you two think of me, I'm not going to put my signature on the documents. I won't give you to a pen. You don't deserve it. You can't be serious. We deserve the money. You cannot prevent us from getting the money. This is our rights. I can do that. You do not have absolute rights over the inheritance. The will says it's very clear, however. If you still have doubts, you can talk to Josh's lawyer and find out. That will make things clear, won't it? Don't worry. We'll find out soon enough. I don't believe a word that comes out of your mouth. Once we get the money, Dad won't have to say married to you anymore, and I don't have to call a stranger Mom. Hearing that made my heart bleed from within. After years of loving Seth, this is how he saw me. I was a mere stranger to him. I stayed in a loveless marriage only because of Seth. I really did consider him my son. He betrayed me in the worst way possible. I had no words left for them. I let them go ahead with their plans. I didn't want to stay married to Archer or take care of Stephanie any longer. The next morning, I got up and went about my day. I went to the office and took over all the work that was left behind by Josh. He did give me his business and let me handle everything. I needed to make him proud, but I also hadn't forgotten what Archer and Seth were planning. So I made plans to teach them a lesson. I contacted 2 lawyers and prepared the documents I needed. Once Archer and Seth realized what they have done, I will give them these documents. It was only a matter of time. It took a week for Utter and Seth to figure out that the will was rock solid. They absolutely needed my signature to get their part of the inheritance, so they were faster changed their tune. They waited for me at home before I could return from work. Once I walked in, they scrambled to apologize to me. They said, "Kira, me, and Seth were talking about what happened, and we think that we are treating you unfairly. You're definitely one of us. We understand why Dad left you with such a huge responsibility. You're a good person." Yeah, we were being stupid. You know, with Grandpa's death and everything, emotions were high. We may have done something we regret. Oh, so you two have finally understood that you can't get $6 million without me? Good to know, guys. It doesn't take much for you to change your tune. You are misunderstanding us, Kira. We didn't mean any harm. We were being extremely immature, trying to be mean to you. We are family, and we should forgive each other. Mom, why can't you just forget it and move on? It was a small mistake. I'm sure you don't want to see your husband and son suffer, right? So I am Mom again for you now, no more stranger. It's rich of you to call me family. I distinctly remember you two telling me that I am not family and literally a stranger. Guess a stranger can become family when they have the power to control your finances. Come on, Kira, Seth is a child. He's made a mistake. Yes, I shouldn't have cheated on you, but it was a one-time thing. I ended things with her today. It will never happen again. Please forgive us. Let's move past this and start afresh. At that point, I knew it was time to reveal the decisions I made on my own. No matter what they said, I knew their behavior was fake. Archer cheated on me for years, and my son supported him blindly. They showered me with fake love so that I would support their lifestyle. The moment they thought they had lots of money, they were planning to get rid of me. It hurt like hell. I was done being taken advantage of. I said, "You know what? You're right, guys. We need to move past this and start afresh. Yes, I will be starting afresh, but without you two. You can't be serious, Kira. We are married and a couple. Seth is our son. You simply can't abandon him. You cannot do this to us. I already have. You two betrayed me in the worst way possible. I was heartbroken to find out that you were cheating on me. What hurts worse was the fact that Seth covered it up for you. I know I made a mistake, Mom. I didn't know any better. You need to forgive me. Absolutely not, Seth. I'll never forgive you too. In fact, here are some things that I have already done. I have filed for divorce. The folder contains the divorce papers and an eviction notice. You have 1 month to vacate my house. I'm done being exploited. Seth and Archer looked extremely panicked when they saw the papers. Archer started to shake, while Seth had tears in his eyes. No, those emotions were not from losing me. They were just anxious that I won't give them the inheritance, and they were right. They said, "You can't divorce me, Kira. I won't allow it." What about my inheritance? What will happen to that? You need to sign it over to me. I'll never provide my signature on the inheritance papers. You two don't deserve mine or Josh's money. He knew exactly what kind of money grabbers you are, so he put that clause in his will. He was right about you too. Now that I know your true faces, I'll never put my signatures on those papers. Mom, please don't do this. We need that money. You are going to abandon us. That doesn't work a good job, and neither do I. How will I get by without an inheritance? You're kicking us out, but we have no place to go. Seth and Archer started to beg me to give them the inheritance, but neither of them even tried to stop me from leaving. That was the final blow for me. I gave them a piece of my mind and left them crying in their living room. I won't go into the details of what I said. It was very strongly worded and came from the bottom of my heart. Even thinking of what they had done still hurts me, but I stayed strong and didn't sway with their tears. A month passed after that, and Stefan and Archer were forced to leave the house. Archer did try to fight me in everything, from the divorce to the eviction, but with very little money in his name, he didn't have the funds to do much. Plus, his lawyers made it clear that he had no legal leg to stand on. Thankfully, I had proof of his cheating. I live in a state where cheating on a spouse stops the cheater from getting any alimony or assets, so Archer was left with nothing. Since Seth was already 18, I had no legal obligations to pay child support. Archer ultimately agreed to a mutual divorce. He knew that it was impossible for him to pay a lawyer for a long time. I mean, he did waste quite some money trying to get his inheritance without my signature. Seth begged me to be in his life like his mother. Archer's mistress is apparently a minimum wage worker. This would make life very difficult for him. I know some people will not agree with me, but I want nothing to do with either of them anymore. Seth made it clear that I was just a money machine for him. I couldn't just forgive that. It's been a whole year since my divorce. Archer and Seth couldn't have their happy family after all. The mistress ran as soon as she realized that Archer had no money. Archer and Seth now live in a small apartment. Seth was forced to get a job because his father refused to fund his life. The two now have a very sour relationship and rarely speak to each other. They did try to contact me, but I rejected both of their attempts. I have moved on with my life. I'm seeing someone much better than Archer. We're taking things slow, so wish me luck so that I can have a better life away from toxic people.
You have no proof this house is yours, Amanda shouted as she threw another box of my things onto the lawn. My brother let you live here, but without a marriage certificate, you're nothing. I stood in the doorway, watching her toss up 12 years of my life. My hands shook, but I kept my voice calm. You're wrong, Amanda. I have proof. She spun around, her expensive purse swinging. Oh, really? Then show me. Where are the papers? She laughed. That's what I thought. Nothing. Just like your so-called marriage, nothing legal, nothing real. My name is Olivia, and 3 months ago, I thought my life was perfect. Then my husband, Marcus, disappeared with his pregnant girlfriend. He left only a text. No marriage registration means no divorce. You keep your job, I keep everything else. But Marcus had no idea what this house really held. Amanda walked around like she already owned the place, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors. I'm actually doing you a favor. Marcus wants his girlfriend to move in next week. You should leave while you still have some dignity. I glanced at the old clock in the corner. My grandfather had built this house himself, and before he died, he had told me something odd. Never move that clock. It holds more than just time. I stepped toward it. Actually, there's something you should see. Amanda sighed. Another worthless old thing? Give it up, Olivia. This house belongs to Marcus now. I ran my fingers along the clock's frame. My grandfather had a habit of hiding important things in strange places. Amanda frowned. What are you talking about? I opened the glass door and reached inside. Feeling for a small hidden latch, I pressed it. Click. A secret compartment popped open. Amanda's face turned pale as I pulled out a yellowed envelope. What's that? I smiled. The original deed to the house, dated 1962. Along with my grandfather's will, he left everything to me, his only grandchild. All legally notarized and filed with the county. Amanda lunged for the papers, but I stepped back. Careful. These are legal documents. She stammered. You're lying. Marcus said the house was in his name. I shook my head. Marcus lied. He never owned this house. My grandfather never trusted him. Seems he was right. Amanda's confidence crumbled. This is ridiculous. I'm calling the police. I pulled out my phone. Good idea. My lawyer would love to explain how trying to kick the legal owner out of their own home is a crime. Silence. Outside, the wind scattered the papers Amanda had thrown out. Her hands clenched and unclenched. You knew, she whispered. You knew all along and let me. Make a fool of yourself. I finished. Yes. Consider it a lesson in humility. Now, why don't you start bringing my boxes back inside? Amanda's mouth opened and closed, but she had no comeback. Finally, she grabbed her purse. This isn't over. Actually, it is, I said, holding up the documents. And when you tell Marcus, remind him my grandfather's lawyer has copies of everything. I bet he'll love knowing he's been living in my house all these years. Amanda stormed off and sped away in her car. I turned to the clock, finally understanding my grandfather's wisdom. He had protected me even beyond his lifetime. I carefully placed the papers back inside the hidden compartment. Time reveals all truths, he had said. The battle wasn't over. Marcus would be back, probably with lawyers. But for the first time since he left, I felt strong. This house was mine, and I wasn't going anywhere. 2 days after Amanda's dramatic exit, I was sorting through old photos in the living room when my phone buzzed. Marcus's name flashed across the screen, accompanied by a text that made my blood boil. Amanda told me about your little stunt with the clock. Nice try, but fake papers won't hold up in court. Lisa and I will be moving in next week. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I glanced at the clock, its steady ticking a reminder of everything still hidden inside. Poor Marcus, always so confident, always so wrong. Before I could respond, another text came through. My lawyer will contact you. Be smart about this, Olivia. I smiled, remembering the other envelope still tucked away in the clock's secret compartment. Grandfather hadn't just left me property deeds, he'd left me insurance. The doorbell rang, and through the window, I saw Marcus strutting up the walkway, Lisa trailing behind him. She couldn't have been more than 25, her baby bump visible under her tight dress. My heart twisted, but not from jealousy. They had no idea what was coming. Olivia, Marcus said as I opened the door, trying to sound authoritative. We need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe, blocking their entry. About what? How you abandoned our 12-year relationship with a text message, or about how you sent your sister to do your dirty work? Lisa stepped forward, her hand protectively over her stomach. Look, we don't want any drama. Just accept that it's over and leave. That's right, Marcus added, pulling out some papers. My lawyer drew these up. Sign them, and we'll let you take your personal belongings. I took the papers, pretending to read them. Let me? That's interesting, considering this is my house. Marcus laughed, but I caught the nervous edge in it. Amanda mentioned you'd found some old papers. They're probably not even real. This house has been in my family's name for years. Has it? I walked to the clock, feeling their eyes follow me. Would you like to know what else my grandfather left in here besides the deed? More fake documents? Marcus scoffed, but he stepped closer, curiosity getting the better of him. I opened the clock's hidden compartment again, this time removing a different envelope. Actually, these are bank statements from an account you opened 3 years ago. The color drained from Marcus's face. Lissa looked between us, confused. An account, I continued, where you've been transferring company funds. Money that isn't yours to take. My grandfather was a founding board member of that company, remember? He kept tabs on everything, even after retirement. You're bluffing, Marcus whispered, but his hands had started to shake. Am I? I pulled out the statements. Want to explain these transfers to your boss, or should I? I'm sure the board would be very interested in where their money's been going. Lisa stepped back, her expression changing. Marcus, what is she talking about? Nothing, he snapped. She's making things up. Oh, and Lisa, I added, pulling out another paper. You might want to ask him about his other girlfriend in Sacramento. The one he visits on his business trips. My grandfather had friends everywhere, including private investigators. The silence that followed was deafening. Lisa's face had gone from confused to horrified. Other girlfriend? Marcus? What? She's lying, Marcus shouted, but the panic in his voice gave him away. The proof is all here, I said calmly. Every transaction, every hotel receipt, every secret meeting. My grandfather knew you'd show your true colors eventually. He just wanted to make sure I was protected when you did. Lisa backed away toward the door, tears streaming down her face. You told me I was special, that Olivia was the only other woman you'd ever been with. Lisa, wait. Marcus called after her, but she was already running to her car. He turned back to me, fury and fear battling in his expression. You've ruined everything. No, Marcus, you did that all on your own. Now, about those papers you wanted me to sign. I ripped them in half, letting the pieces flutter to the floor. I think we're done here. Unless you'd like me to share these documents with the company board? Marcus stared at me for a long moment, defeat finally registering in his eyes. Without another word, he turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I returned the documents to their hiding place in the clock, my hands trembling slightly. The ticking seemed louder now, like a heartbeat, strong and steady. My phone buzzed again. A text from Lisa. I'm so sorry, I had no idea about any of it. I didn't respond. Her awakening wasn't my responsibility. Instead, I sat in my grandfather's old armchair, looking at the clock that had protected me when I needed it most. Time reveals all truths, I whispered, remembering his words. The old clock had revealed more than just property rights. It had exposed the true nature of the man I'd almost spent my life with. The sun was setting outside, casting long shadows through the windows. Somewhere in the city, Marcus was probably scrambling to cover his tracks, and Lisa was facing her own harsh realities. But here, in this house that had always been mine, I was finally at peace. The clock kept ticking, steady and sure, guarding whatever other secrets my grandfather might have left behind. But those were stories for another day. A month after Marcus's dramatic exit, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, watching the morning light filter through the windows. The house felt different now, lighter somehow, as if a heavy shadow had been lifted. My phone lit up with a message from my grandfather's old friend and lawyer, Tom Harrison. Just thought you'd want to know. Marcus resigned from the company yesterday. Seems he's taking a job out of state. Your grandfather would be proud of how you handled everything. I smiled, remembering how Marcus had tried to contact me several times over the past weeks, his messages shifting from threats to desperate pleas. Each time, I'd simply send him photos of the banking documents until finally he understood there was no way out. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. To my surprise, Amanda stood on my porch, looking very different from the last time I'd seen her. Gone was the designer outfit and superior attitude. Instead, she seemed smaller, almost apologetic. Can we talk? She asked quietly. I considered closing the door, but something in her expression made me pause. 5 minutes. She followed me into the living room, her eyes immediately going to the clock. I owe you an apology, she began, twisting her hands nervously. I was horrible to you, and I believed everything Marcus told me without question. Yes, you were, and yes, you did. I agreed, watching her carefully. I didn't know, she continued, about the money he was stealing or about his other girlfriends. When Lisa told me everything, she trailed off, shaking her head. I felt so stupid. The clock ticked steadily in the background as I considered her words. Your brother made fools of a lot of people, I said finally. But you chose to be cruel. That was your decision. I know, she whispered. And I'm truly sorry. I always thought you weren't good enough for our family. Now I realize we weren't good enough for you. I let her words hang in the air for a moment, remembering all the small cruelties, the dismissive comments, the ways she tried to make me feel less than. But I also remembered my grandfather's words about forgiveness being a choice we make for ourselves, not others. Thank you for the apology, I said finally. I appreciate you coming here to say it in person. Amanda nodded, then reached into her bag. I found these while helping Marcus pack, she said, pulling out a stack of old photos. They're of you and your grandfather from when you were little. I thought you might want them. My heart caught as I looked at the familiar images, my grandfather and me working on the house together, planting the garden, him teaching me about the clock. In every photo, his eyes held that special twinkle, as if he knew something the rest of the world didn't. He was an amazing man, Amanda said softly. I wish I'd taken the time to know him better. As she left, I placed the photos on the mantel beside the clock. Its steady ticking had become a comfort now, a reminder that time indeed reveals all truths, but it also heals all wounds. Later that evening, as I sat in my grandfather's old chair, I opened the clock one last time. Behind the compartment holding the deeds and bank statements, I found one final envelope I hadn't noticed before. Inside was a letter, written in my grandfather's familiar handwriting. My dearest Olivia, if you're reading this, it means you've discovered what the clock holds and you've needed its protection. I'm sorry you had to face such difficulties, but I'm proud of the strength I know you've shown. Remember, a house is more than just walls and deeds. It's a home for your spirit, a shelter for your dreams. I built this place not just with lumber and nails, but with love and hope for the future, your future. The clock will always keep time for you, marking not just hours and minutes, but moments of courage, growth, and truth. Let its steady ticking remind you that you are stronger than you know, wiser than you believe, and more loved than you can imagine. Take care of our home, my darling girl, and know that I'm always with you in every tick and talk of our faithful timekeeper. All my love, Grandfather. I carefully folded the letter and returned it to its hiding place. Outside, the sun was setting, casting golden light through the windows. The house felt alive with memories, not just of the recent drama, but of all the love and wisdom my grandfather had built into its very foundation. The clock kept its steady rhythm, marking not just the end of one chapter, but the beginning of another. My chapter, in my home, on my terms. Time, as my grandfather always said, reveals all truths. But sometimes, if we're lucky, it also reveals exactly who we were meant to be all along. She's just after the money, Sophia shouted, standing at the head of the table. Look at these bank statements. While we were mourning Dad's death, she was secretly taking money from the family accounts. I sat quietly, watching her dramatic performance. She waved the papers, paused for effect, and glanced at the others. It was all carefully planned. My name is Alexandra, and at that moment, my family was turning against me. Is this true, Alex? My mother-in-law, Margaret, asked, her voice shaking. She clutched her pearls, a nervous habit since Dad passed 3 months ago. Did you really do this? I met her eyes. No, I said. I didn't. But Sophia wasn't done. She threw more papers on the table, then explained these. Transfers, withdrawals, while you were handling Dad's estate. My brother James wouldn't even look at me. He just stared at his hands, like when we were kids and Sophia blamed me for things she did. Some things never change. The paperwork is real, I said calmly. Everything was approved by the estate lawyer. Sophia laughed coldly. The lawyer you chose? How convenient. I felt the room shift. Aunt Helen, who once invited me for Sunday dinners, now looked away. Cousin Peter, whom I helped with college applications, wouldn't meet my gaze. Even my husband, Michael, sat silently, unsure. I think it's best if you leave, Alexandra, Margaret said hesitantly. Leave? For what? I asked, though I already knew. This was Sophia's plan all along. Until we figure this out. Sophia snapped. The missing money, the way you tricked Dad. I stood up, grabbing my bag. You're making a mistake, I said softly. Grief makes people easy to manipulate. I looked straight at Sophia. Her face twitched for a second. Get out, she hissed, and don't come back until you return every cent. As I reached the door, Michael finally spoke. Alex, wait. But Sophia cut him off. Let her go. She's been using you too. I turned one last time. When you're ready for the truth, you know where to find me. Driving home, everything felt unreal. 3 months ago, we were a close family. Now, thanks to Sophia, I was the villain. But she didn't know the full story. I'd been watching her too. I had seen things that didn't add up. Dad had noticed them too. That's why he asked me to handle the estate. Stay sharp, Alexandra, he had told me. Things aren't always what they seem. Pulling into my driveway, I already had a plan. Sophia thought she had one. She thought I'd just accept this. She was wrong. I unlocked my door, ignoring the flood of angry messages from my family. Instead, I opened my laptop, pulling up the file I'd been building for 6 months. Game on, Sophia, I whispered. What happened next would change everything. Because while she played her game, she didn't realize I was about to uncover something that would reveal her lies once and for all. And I knew exactly where to look. The next morning, I drove to Dad's house early, using the key he'd given me before he passed. The family wouldn't be here. They always slept late after their dramatic meetings, something I counted on. The house was quiet, morning light streaming through the windows as I made my way to his study. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. The leather chair still held the indent from where he'd spent countless hours, his reading glasses still perched on the corner of the desk. But I wasn't here for memories. I was here for answers. Dad had been meticulous about his records, organizing everything with a system only he fully understood. Or so everyone thought. We'd spent months before his death going through files together, and he taught me his methods, showing me how each folder connected to another, creating a web of information that told the real story of our family's finances. I started with the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet, the one Sophia never bothered to check because it only contained old tax records. But Dad had taught me better. Behind those tax records was a false back, and behind that, found you, I whispered, pulling out a thin red notebook. The notebook contained Dad's private observations, things he'd noticed but never confronted directly. As I flipped through the pages, his familiar handwriting painted a very different picture than the one Sophia had presented. March 15th. Notice unusual transfers from the family trust. Sophia's signature doesn't match previous documents. Need to verify. April 3rd. James seems unaware of the new account opened in his name. Sophia handling all financial matters now. Concerning. May 1st. Alexandra's audit revealed systematic discrepancies. Keep this quiet for now. Building evidence. My hands were shaking as I read. Dad hadn't just suspected, he'd known. He'd been tracking Sophia's activities for months, maybe years. But why hadn't he confronted her? The answer came on the last page, dated just a week before his death. Hidden the final evidence in the place only Alexandra knows to look. She'll understand when the time comes. The blue box holds the truth. The blue box. My heart skipped a beat. When I was 12, Dad had shown me his secret hiding spot, a hidden compartment behind the study's fireplace mantel. Every good man needs a place to keep his secrets, he told me with a wink. This is where I keep the things that really matter. I moved to the fireplace, my fingers finding the hidden catch exactly where I remembered it. With a soft click, the panel popped open. Inside was a small blue box, dusty but intact. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were USB drives, documents, and a sealed letter addressed to me. But what caught my eye was a stack of bank statements, the real ones, not the doctored versions Sophia had presented. They told a very different story. The transfers she'd accused me of making, they all traced back to accounts she controlled. The suspicious withdrawals, they coincided perfectly with her recent luxury purchases, a new car, expensive jewelry, that surprise vacation she'd taken James on. But it was the letter that made my breath catch. My dear Alexandra, if you're reading this, then things have played out as I feared they might. Sophia has shown her true colors, and the family, in their grief, has likely believed her. They always did prefer a dramatic performance to quiet truth. I'm entrusting you with this evidence because you were the only one who saw through her act from the beginning. The USB drives contained security footage from my study. Yes, I had cameras installed after the first time I caught her forging my signature. The documents prove where the money really went. But most importantly, I've included my new will, the real one, not the version Sophia thinks she found. She's been playing a dangerous game, Alexandra, and it's time for the truth to come out. Use this wisely. The family will resist at first. Truth is always harder to accept than lies. But they need to know who really had their best interests at heart. I trust you to do what's right. Love, Dad. I sat back in his chair, the weight of everything settling over me. Dad hadn't just left me evidence, he'd left me a responsibility. He trusted me to expose the truth, to protect the family from someone who'd been systematically deceiving them. My phone buzzed. A message from Michael. Can we talk? I looked at the evidence spread before me, then typed my reply. Yes. Bring everyone to Dad's house tomorrow at 2. It's time for the real family meeting. I gathered everything carefully, making copies of the key documents. Sophia had spent years building her deception, turning the family against me piece by piece. Tomorrow, that carefully constructed house of cards would come crashing down. As I locked up the study, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked different somehow, stronger, more determined. Dad had trusted me with his secrets, and I wouldn't let him down. Tomorrow would change everything. But first, I had some preparing to do. At precisely 2 p.m. the next day, they all filed into Dad's study. Margaret, James, Michael, Aunt Helen, Cousin Peter, and finally Sophia, wearing an expression of manufactured concern. I stood behind Dad's desk, feeling his presence in every corner of the room. What's this about, Alexandra? Sophia asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Haven't you caused enough pain? I smiled, remembering Dad's words about preferring dramatic performances. Actually, Sophia, I think it's time we discussed your performance from yesterday. Before she could respond, I connected one of the USB drives to Dad's computer, turning the screen so everyone could see. Security footage began playing, showing Sophia sneaking into the study late at night, forging signatures, replacing documents. What is this? Margaret whispered, her hand dropping from her pearls. This, I said calmly, is what really happened in Dad's final months. I spread out the real bank statements, the documented evidence of Sophia's transfers, the traced records of her purchases. While you were all grieving, while you were trusting Sophia's version of events, Dad was building a case. James stepped closer to the screen, his face pale. Sophia, what did you do? She laughed nervously. This is obviously fake. She's trying to frame me. I pulled out Dad's letter, still sealed. Margaret, would you like to read Dad's letter? I think you'll recognize his handwriting and his signature. As Margaret read aloud, Sophia's facade began to crack. The family listened in stunned silence as Dad's words exposed everything. The systematic theft, the manipulation, the careful groundwork Sophia had laid to blame me when the time came. It's not true, Sophia said weakly, but even she didn't seem to believe it anymore. The real will is in that blue box, I said quietly. Along with every piece of evidence Dad collected, he knew Sophia. He knew everything. The room erupted in chaos. James stumbled backward, looking at his wife like he was seeing her for the first time. Aunt Helen was crying. Cousin Peter was furiously scrolling through the financial records on his tablet. Michael moved to stand beside me, taking my hand. I'm so sorry I doubted you, he whispered. But I was watching Sophia. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling, and she knew it. She turned to run, but found Aunt Helen blocking the doorway. Going somewhere? Aunt Helen asked, her voice hard. I think you owe us all some answers. The next few hours were intense. The family lawyer was called. Statements were made. Sophia's scheme had been larger than even I had imagined. She'd been siphoning money for years, playing family members against each other, building her own secret fortune at everyone's expense. By evening, she'd been asked to leave the house and the family. James, devastated by her betrayal, could barely look at her. The lawyer was already drafting papers to freeze her assets and begin recovery proceedings. As the dust settled, Margaret approached me, tears in her eyes. Alexandra, can you ever forgive us? We should have known, should have trusted you like he did. I hugged her tightly. Dad used to say that family isn't about blind trust. It's about seeing the truth in people's actions, not just their words. Later that night, back in Dad's study, I sat in his chair one last time. The family had gathered in the living room, beginning a long process of healing and reconciliation. Michael brought me a cup of tea, sitting on the desk edge. "You know," he said softly, "your dad would be proud of how you handled this." I touched the letter, now framed and hanging on the wall. He trusted me to do the right thing. That's what family really means. Through the door, I could hear the murmur of voices, my family, coming back together, stronger for having faced the truth. Sophia had tried to tear us apart, but in the end, Dad's wisdom and trust had kept us whole. I picked up the blue box, now empty of its secrets but full of memories, ready to join the others. Michael asked, extending his hand. "Yes," I smiled, taking his hand. "It's time to be a family again." We walked out together, leaving the study exactly as Dad had kept it, a place where truth lived, where secrets were kept safe, and where, in the end, justice had prevailed. The family's healing would take time, but we would face it together, stronger for having weathered this storm. And somewhere, I knew, Dad was smiling, knowing his trust had not been misplaced.